Hello, it's Mr. Curtis, and this is a quick video just to take you through some of the changes that have happened with the GCSEs for English. Now, we've had some recent information and things have been changing. We've been getting things bit by bit, but now we've got a clearer picture, and I thought I'd send you a small little video just to help you understand how things are going to be and how's it going to look like. So this is all based on how things are currently at the moment, on the basis that there will be the exams going ahead in the summer, and this is how it's going to look like. For GCSE English Language, which is the one for most of you who are looking for getting a grade 4 above for your courses for college and sixth form, the GCSE has not changed. There will still be two papers. Paper 1 will be the fiction paper, which is worth 50% of the overall GCSE, and paper 2, which will be the non-fiction paper, which is worth 50% of the GCSE as well. So there are no changes from that angle. To highlight, the important thing about it is your mock exam in January will be on language paper 2. Now there will be more videos on YouTube, which will give you some links. We're also going to go through it in lessons after you've finished Romeo and Juliet. So that's what your mock exam is going to be in January. We're also going to do a practice of paper 1 later on in the academic year. You've already done a little bit of paper 1 because you did some descriptive writing, which we did as a baseline assessment just to see where you are at the moment and what we've got to work on to help you do well. Okay, so the GCSE English Literature, that's where the big changes have happened. And that's the thing that we need to talk to you about and explain to you. So because of the reduced time, the exam boards have said that teachers and English departments can remove some content. So teachers could have a choice depending on where they were in the scheme of their plan. So for us, we've gone with Inspector Calls because that is the last text we would have covered. And we would have done it in November and December time. So what we've done is we're getting rid of that. So you're doing Romeo and Juliet at the moment, you've done Christmas Carol, you've done the Power and Conflict poetry, and we're going to spend some time later on doing the unseen poetry. So how the GCSE has changed for English literature, it just means that Inspector Calls has disappeared. So there's one text that you're not going to do, which is great for us because it means that instead of spending time on Inspector Calls, it means that we can spend all that time working on the exam and preparing for the mocks. The format has changed for the exams, and so the format for previous years has looked a little bit different. This is how it's going to be. So paper 1 for literature, you'll have 2 sections for that, and there'll be different papers to deal with the changes that have happened. So you'll have one paper which will be 50 minutes long, which will be looking at Power and Conflict, which is 30 marks, and then you'll have a break within the exam hall where the examiner and invigilators will be able to collect those papers and then give you the next paper. And the next section will be section 1B, which is of Christmas Carol. And that will be 50 minutes. And so you'll have 2 50-minute blocks for that paper itself. And that's worth 46% of the overall GCSE. And paper 2 has changed as well. So paper 2 is really the compulsory paper. These are the ones that every school must do. On paper 1, the text can change. But on paper 2, all schools must do a Shakespeare play and they must do unseen poetry. So the paper looks like this. So for Romeo and Juliet, it will be on paper 2 and you've got 34 marks. And the reason why there's 34 marks is because 34 marks, 4 of those marks is for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So you'll see on paper 2 that your spelling, punctuation, grammar matters on that paper. Then for section B, you've got unseen poetry, a poem you've never seen before, and you're having to write about it. So the first part of that is writing about the poem you've never seen before. And then the second part is looking at comparing that unseen poem with another poem you've never looked at before. And the exam length on paper 2 is 1 hour 45 minutes. And on paper 2, you'll not have a break. Now this is the latest guidance, and we know that exam boards might change things later on, but at the moment this is what the exam board have released, and shown us to be in the actual paper itself. And so it gives you a rough idea. So how will the papers look? Well, will they look any different to how we've been working on things? The answer is no. They will look very much like the papers that we've been working on, which is you've got your question and you've got your extract. So for example, the one on the left is for the poetry question, and the one on the right is for Charles Dickens. So you get given the text, and then you're given the question, and you have to respond to it. So it's very, very similar to what we've been doing, and you should be used to it now of the kind of style that we're working towards. If you have a look at the other papers, so paper 2 for the literature, you've got Romeo and Juliet, an extract, and then you've got the question. And the question asks you to look at the extract and think about the rest of the play. And then on the other side of this slide, you've got the unseen poetry. There's a poem. Don't panic. You're not supposed to have seen the poem before. That's the whole thing about the unseen poetry. It's all about reading something for the first time and coming up with some ideas. And usually the poems, and it's nothing to be scared about, usually the poems are something that most people can write about. This one is about growing up and getting older. So it's quite easy for you to be able to spot something, and there'll be something interesting about the way that it's written. So you spend most of your time on that paper writing about the poem, and then for 8 marks, you have to read a second poem, and then you have to compare the two together. Now, I will go through these different papers and different questions in more detail, but what I wanted to do today is just give you an overview of how the papers are going to look. So you've got an idea that the papers aren't going to change that much. It just means that we're getting rid of one text, and it means that just moving little things about. So it shouldn't have that much impact on things for you. So it's as much as what we've been doing before, and the key thing is you're understanding the text, your ability to remember bits from them and to learn quotes, but also your ability to explain your ideas in detail. So the mock in January, what will the mock look like? So the mock in January, we've decided to do it on this way to help you, to make it easier for you. That's what we're thinking about. Now, we could have done Christmas Carol, or we could have done unseen poetry, but we made the decision that we would do instead the power and conflict poetry, and we would do Romeo and Juliet, because you've written about them recently, you've studied them recently, and so that will help you. Okay. We're also going to be looking at language paper 2. We've done some paper 1 stuff, but we haven't really addressed paper 2. Now, the great thing is that we will now finish Romeo and Juliet within the next few weeks. And because we've finished Romeo and Juliet, we have, in effect, done the whole GCSE course. We have covered all the texts that need to be covered for the literature, which means that we can now spend the rest of the time working on practicing for the exams. And so we'll be looking at paper 2. We'll be looking at question by question. We'll be practicing. We'll be going through those things. Now, I know in your mind you're probably thinking, well, what about Christmas Carol? It's been a while since I've done anything with Christmas Carol. I can't remember, or I can't remember some of the poems with power and conflict. We've planned that in mind. So what you're going to do, as soon as we finish Romeo and Juliet, we are going to be looking at some of the poems at the same time looking at language paper 2. And then when we finish the mock, we're then going to go back to Christmas Carol and we're going to have a look at paper 1. Okay, so things are working to help you and to support you as you go along. So key points that I want from this little video for you to be very, very clear about. The GCSE English language exam has not changed. Nothing on that has changed. It's all the same. And that's what we're going to be doing a lot of the time now in English, which is focusing on the language paper. Both Mrs. Wilkinson and myself are examiners for AQA, for the exam board. So we've got very, very good skills in terms of identifying what the examiner wants and what you need, because we've been that examiner ourselves. We're not studying in spectacles. So the only texts that you need to know are Christmas Carol, Romeo and Juliet, and the conflict poetry. So that's quite a lot, really, that you don't have to know in spectacles, the whole text. The structure of the literature exams has changed, but only slightly, and it's just moved things around on the paper. The marking stays the same, so nothing major in terms of how things have marked have changed. It's just the layout of the exam and the text itself. Revision will start as soon as Romeo and Juliet is completed. And when we say revision, we'll be saying Christmas Carol, but we'll be mainly looking at the language papers. Our plan now, after Romeo and Juliet, will be focusing on language and looking at the language exams. So that will be looking at the reading questions. That will be looking at the writing tasks and working through those. So as I said, from the end of November, we will spend time revising all the texts and going through the exam papers. We will be adding more videos to our YouTube channel, and we're going to put some videos about some of the good examples of work, and we're also going to be looking at how the exam questions work and, for example, giving you some tips and ideas on how to improve particular aspects on there. Another reminder that we're having our kind of drop-in live session on a Monday from 5:30 till 6 o'clock. Message me if there's anything particular. I've had some messages already of things that people want to look at. It'll also be an opportunity on that Monday drop-in to any questions, anything you've got or anything you're not sure about, then you can ask questions then. I'd also say that if there's anything you're worried about or want clarification, then do talk to your English teacher. Your English teacher knows you better than anybody else in terms of your writing and your reading. So if you've got any issues, do talk to that teacher so they can help you. And obviously I'm here to help out, but obviously I don't know every student. So thank you for listening. And if there's any questions, do send me a message. Thank you.